Welcome back to the Yellowcard Vanguard channel. I'm your host, Toku from ItsTokuTV on Twitch. I've got a bit of a special one for you guys to enjoy today, and that's a throwback to what we used to do. And to be honest, should do more. It's a Yellowcard combo video. This time, I'm featuring my beloved Blasters deck in the premium format. Though present in the Japanese side of the game for quite some time now, Replenish MAGE has been announced to be released for us in the English side, and I was very excited to hear so, because this card pumps a lot of life into Blasters for both the premium as well as the V premium side of things. Let's give you a quick review as to what Replenish MAGE does and what it enables for the Blaster deck. Once per turn, when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard attacks, you can counterblast 1, and call from your soul a grade 2 or greater Blaster unit to an empty rearguard circle. Secondly, when this unit is rolled upon by a Blaster, you can call it to rear. Replenish MAGE becomes the Blaster deck's ideal grade 1 ride, as it allows for a +1 to board to the following turn and has a strong effect on board as well. At base value, its first skill is to enable multi-attack in MLB by being able to recall a unit you put into the soul to gain the force markers. But this video here aims to show you what else Replenish MAGE can do, so let's get right into it. So this first combo that I'm going to show you today is basically reminding people what the Blaster top end looks to be. It actually doesn't feature Replenish MAGE because the ideal finisher turn with Blasters is to restand your Blaster Blade with stacked crits as many times as possible through the use of Flogal. So just to quickly run over the requirements here, we are going to need 5 counterblasts to be able to use all of our different counterblasting skills between Flogal here. If you look here, we have 5 different cards that use counterblast and 5 counterblasts to do so. We would ideally want to be on GB3 by the time we stride into Crystal Luster to get the Guard Restrict live, but if you weren't able to pick up a G-Guard in time, which honestly, the damage doesn't really match a G-Zone, but forget about that. We want to be on GB3. Then obviously we need something to stride with, so we are going to stride into Crystal Luster Dragon. And with its main skill, we're going to flip a copy of Ganslot to give our Blaster Blades resist, just in case we're against a certain matchup, namely Kagero, which is able to snipe our Blaster Blades. So to develop our board, we're going to pop on our 2 Ryus here, and fill the back row with Flogals. Our first attack is going to be with this column here, and once that's done, we're going to use its skill. Counterblast 1, push itself into soul, and from deck we're going to call any blaster, specifically that this one's going to be calling Blaster Blade onto its force circle, but we can call Blaster Dark here. It does gain 3k, which does then let us hit into force numbers, so we're going to go ahead and swing 13k into the Vanguard again. Once this comes, then we're going to slide on over to the next one. And that's going to be a View boosted by a Flogal. This one, if I'm not mistaken, should be about 36k. And we're going to use Ryu skill to push it back into soul, and from deck we're going to call Blaster Blade, which gains 3k for its skill. Then, before we attack with the Blaster Blade, our 4th attack is going to be with Crystal Luster Dragon. Mind you, all of these attacks will have the GB3 live, so it becomes very annoying to guard these small little pokes on this side. We're aiming to try and get over a single G-Guard's worth. If they have to G-Guard, they have to guard from hand as well, which will then force the triple door, or they have to double G-Guard. So we'll go into our drive checks here, and 1 crit, 2 crit, 3 crit, 4 crit, all into Blaster Blade. Next attack is going to be Blaster Blade, obviously. Then we're going to use one of our Flogal skill, send it back to deck, restand the Blaster Blade. Next attack, Blaster Blade, Flogal skill, back to deck, restand the Blaster Blade. Second last attack, Blaster Blade, Flogal skill, back to deck, and we end our turn off with another Blaster Blade. So, with the utmost of high roll, with the utmost of all the resources being able to give to us, we look to attack with a 60, 70, 80k Blaster Blade with multiple crits many times a turn with the triple door live, at which point something's got to connect. Let's go to the next combo. So this next combo here actually does demonstrate what Replenish MAGE can do for us in conjunction with Crystal Luster, in conjunction with MLB. So one of the main issues that existed before Replenish MAGE's existence was the fact that if you wanted to use MLB's skill to gain some force markers, usually you're sucking up really important pieces like your Flogal, or you're sucking up a grade 2, that way you lose your triple door effect. But because of Replenish MAGE, you are able to kind of still get Flogals at the same time as to refill your board to be able to provide fuel for the soul in to get the extra force markers. So this combo will aim to demonstrate that. So unlike the previous one, We only need 4 combo for this one, but we lose 1 attack since we'll have 1 less Flogal on board. Our hand is going to look like this. We're going to have a Liu, 2 Flogals, any grade 2 to be honest. For this example, I just had a Liu that I picked up off the deck, Stride Fodder, and the new card Replenish Mage. So we'll start off our turn by striding into the one and only stride that Royal Paladin has forever and ever, Crystal Luster Dragon. We'll use its skill to flip over the Gancelot, giving our Blaster Blades protection, but more importantly turning on GB3 and copying the effects of the Heart MLB. We'll develop our board as such. So as normal, we're going to have Liu on the Force Marker with a Flogal behind it to enable the Blaster Engine multi-attack. But here's where we switch it up. We're going to call Replenish Mage to this side, as well as Flogal to this side. And in this back column here, we're just going to slam that extra grade 2. Like I said, it doesn't matter what grade 2 it is. The ideal one to have would be Starhope Trumpeter to be able to give the Vanguard boost. But when our Vanguard is this big already has a quad drive, sometimes the boost is not needed. And just having the grade 2 here to turn on the triple door effect is more than enough. We're going to go into attacks now, and we're going to swing with our Replenish Mage, boosting our Flogal. Now this is only 12k, which does not hit force numbers, but it does hit Protect and Axel, and it also hits into Interceptors. So yes, even though we do have our triple door effect live right now, if this didn't hit, we could still hit into an Intercept, which would then make guarding future attacks a bit harder. Alternatively, if this is a bit later in the game and we have farmed some force markers, having a force marker here will then just make this a lot more harder to guard as well if we do choose to swing this into the Vanguard. But after this attack, we're going to then swing with the Liu Flogal column and use its skill to call the one and only Blaster Blade. Now here's where we switch it up. Normally you would think, oh, now I swing with the Vanguard, I use MLB skill, but then you're like, oh, what do I suck in with MLB to get the max value? So what we're actually going to do here is we're actually going to swing a Blaster Blade first, and then use this specific Flogal to counterblast 1, send itself back to deck to withstand their Blaster Blade. Why this is important is because this opens up a slot in the front row for Replenish Mage. So on this next attack, we're going to swing with Crystal Luster, and a few on attacks proc off here. We can choose to use Crystal Luster and Replenish Mage. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Replenish Mage here. And we're going to counterblast. We are going to call from Soul an extra Blaster Dark. One of the main caveats here is that we do need an extra blaster in Soul to do so. I guess to make it more simple, like even if we only had one of each blaster in Soul right now, if we had a blaster here, this would be the one being pushed in to be able to fulfill our Soul condition for MLB. So luckily for this example, we did have an extra Blaster Dark, which we're able to call out using Replenish Mage's skill. Then we can stack onto Crystal Luster's skill and pushing this and this into Soul to get 2 more force markers. We can put 1 onto the Blaster Blade column and 1 onto the newly called Blaster Dark, which will then now hit the Vanguard. We'll do our drive checks here. I love anime, 4 crits. 1 crit onto the Blaster Dark would stack the rest onto the Blaster Blade here. We can swing with the Blaster Dark. This will be the 5th attack, 6th attack Blaster Blade, using the Flogal skill and our last counterblast to put it back onto the deck, shuffle, and then we finish off with a final Blaster Blade attack. So basically, what I wanted you guys to kind of like understand about this combo was that Replenished Mage is able to allow us to use the MLB skill to gain those force markers, meanwhile still maintaining the Crystal Luster GB3 effect. Let's go to the third combo. So in this combo, we look to maximize our usage of both Flogal and also Replenish Mage to make the most of our 5 counterblasts that we need. One of the key caveats for this combo is that we will need an extra blaster in Soul, so I do have an extra copy of MLB here just for the sake of demonstrating the combo. The main thing is, whatever blaster you use, having used the MLB skills from before, or if you were able to do a bunch of rewriting on the grade 2 game that gives us a lot of blasters to be able to use for Replenish Mage, that's what's important to note here. Let's go ahead and develop our board after paying cost for Stride into, yeah, you guys are sick of this, but it's Crystal Luster. Obviously, we activate his effect, flipping over a copy of Gancelot Peace Saver, and the board we look to develop here is obviously, similarly to last time, Replenish Mage, Flogal. Instead of any random grade 2 here, we can do Replenish Mage in the back, Liu, Flogal. So the main thing to note here is that no, we don't have our GB3 active, but we will get our GB3 active by the time we get to our Vanguard swing. Our Vanguard Swing is the one that has the crit, and this Pee-wee poke here can get intercepted regardless if we didn't have that force on there. But we look to milk every bit of counterblast we can, and depending on how many times you've been using MLB skill throughout the game, a lot of the time, sometimes GB3 is not needed except to make your opponent discard an extra 2 for their PGs. So going into the attacks here, we're going to go Replenish Mage Flogal 12k into their Axel Protect Vanguard or into their Interceptor. Then we're going to go into our Blaster Engine combo here, Flogal Ryu skill to push it to Soul, and from deck we call Blaster Blade. Now similar to like what I said before, the main thing we want to do is to ensure we have an open front row circle that Replenish Mage will be able to call a grade 2 or greater to. So we'll swing with Blaster Blade here. Then we'll actually use Flogal to send it back to deck, restand the Blaster Blade, and here we actually swing again. So because we have this extra Replenish Mage, we're able to get 2 superior calls from Soul. So the way we're going to do this is when we do attack with Crystal Luster, we're going to use this Replenish Mage first, Counterblast 1, and onto this empty circle, we're going to call MLB. Then, we're going to use Crystal Luster or MLB skill to suck in 2 rear guards. We're going to suck in the Blaster Blade that's attacked, and then now use Replenish Mage to get 2 force markers. We can put 1 onto the Blaster Blade column and 1 onto the newly called unit, just to make sure it hits over any defensives. Then, we're going to use our Replenish Mage, that is our booster, Counterblast 1, and we're going to call out the Blaster Blade we just sold in for the cost. This resets our front row, and now we have our GB3 live since we do have 3 or more units with grade 2 or greater. We'll do our drive checks here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stack the crits onto the Blaster Blade, maybe distribute the power just because MLB itself does have a crit as well. And then we can swing with our MLB, our Blaster Blade, use our Flogal skill, send it back to deck, and we end the turn with another very large, very lethal Blaster Blade swing. So the main thing I wanted to highlight here is the fact that you can actually stack multiple Replenish Mages alongside MLB skill in a way that you maximize each Replenish Mage. I wanted to feature that you were able to use one of the Replenish Mages to fill up a front row circle, then use MLB skill to then suck in that old Replenish Mage, and then use the new Replenish Mage to refill another circle. So our next combo here is fairly similar to the previous one. It does show off 2 Replenish Mages, but only 1 Flogal this time. So we are going to use 1 less counterblast and get 1 less attack. But this is more so when we don't have an extra blaster in soul, but we do have an extra blaster in hand. So similarly, we are going to stride into Crystal Luster, flip over the Gansla, and we're going to develop our board. Just like before, Replenish, Flogal here, making the blaster column, Replenish in the back, and MLB in the front. So our attack order here, so we get 1 less attack, but all of our attacks will be triple doored. So this is really good when you're going for the kill, when your opponent has very little in hand left, that getting more triple door attacks out is probably the best way to try and close out the game. We're going to swing with MLB first, then we're going to go into our blaster column. Pop that out. Once again, it is the boy Blaster Blade. Swing with the Blaster Blade. And then we can go into our Crystal Luster Dragon. So, because we have 2 Replenish Mages here, we can kind of decide how to stack. At this moment, we don't have any open circles, so we will never put Replenish Mage on the first part of the stack. Instead, we'll use MLB skill to suck in our 2 front row rear guards, and then we can resolve both of our Replenish Mages, Counterblasting 2 to once again just call it that same columns. Blaster Blade and MLB. We'll gain our 2 force markers. We'll put it here this time just to demonstrate that Blaster Blade will make the most out of these force markers, and we'll do our drive checks. Bada bing bada boom, 4 crits, that's how we do it. We'll swing with the MLB, we'll swing with the Blaster Blade, we'll use the Flogal skill, and we'll end our turn with 1-shot pop Blaster Blade. So a lot of these combos kind of demonstrate how we are able to use Replenish Mage alongside Flogal, alongside MLB with the Crystal Luster Stride to maintain GB3 and try and make the most out of each one. But Replenish Mage just isn't a premium card, it is a V premium card to start off with, so I can also show you guys how it looks like when you're grade 2 gaming and then looking to kill on the grade 3 turn. So let's go ahead and take a look. So what I love about blasters right now is that they have a really good grade 2 game. Between Blaster Blade, Blaster Dark, and the Blaster Engine in Liu, Flogal, and Barkgull, you can stay on grade 2 for quite some time and try and whittle down your opponent's hand. You have a lot of on-hit pressure through Wingull Brave as well, so you are able to start collecting pieces for your grade 3s and future turns. So let's say we've been grade 2 gaming for quite some time now, and I notice my opponent's hand is weak, and they're at high damage, so I'm thinking maybe I can go for the kill here. So of note is that this pattern only needs one open counterblast because of Barkgull. We are going to be calling a Blaster Blade to the Barkgull column quite a lot, so we do get a lot of usage out of that one counterblast. We've obviously got our MLB as our ride target, and because of our grade 2 game, we can actually generally have Blaster Dark and Blaster Blade in Soul already that we don't need the other one going into this turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to ride into MLB, and we're going to put a force marker to this column here. Now, this is assuming that our opponent's still on a 10k, 9k base Vanguard because they're still on grade 2. They've also been playing the grade 2 game with us. So, despite before where this column would be 12k and would sometimes hit or would be forced to act into an interceptor, this one will actually hit. What's important to note is that when we make this column, we do want it with the Barkgull rather than this one to make better numbers because the resource management we get out of this column is actually kind of nuts. We'll go into attacks now and we'll swing 12 to their Vanguard. We're looking to kill them here, so sending everything to face is what we're looking for. Hopefully in the prior turns we've been able to burn some Heal Guardians as well, so their defensive is a bit weaker. We'll swing with Liu in the Barkgull column here. This should be 29k, so even if they do Heal Guardian, this does kind of reach out of that initial 20k that they would sit on, maybe that even 19k that they would sit on if they were on an Axel or Protect. So this is a magic number between those decks. Then we can use Liu's skill here to push it into Soul, and Superior Call a Blaster Blade. This Blaster Blade then gains 3k, but also because of Barkgull, we get to countercharge. So here, we can actually swing with the Blaster Blade. This will be 23 at their van. Then we swing with MLB. We'll use MLB skill here to Soul in the Blaster Blade as well as the Wingull Brave. We should have already gotten enough mileage out of the Wingull Brave being behind the Vanguard swing for the on-hit pressure in the early game that we can go ahead and tuck it away now. We can either choose to stack all of the force markers onto Blaster Blade Circle, since it'll be attacking from there twice, or we can also put a force here to try and just close out the game on the Vanguard swing. For the purposes of this combo, I'll put it all onto the Blaster Blade Circle just to show how crazy things can get. Now we can go Replenish Mage, Counterblast 1, because our grade 3 or greater Vanguard attacked, we can call a grade 2 or greater Blaster from Soul to an empty circle. We're going to call the Blaster Blade once again, which procs the Barkgull, giving us that counter charge, and we're going to do our triple drive check. 1, all effects, 2, all effects, 3, all effects. So while our opponent is still on grade 2 without the access to G Guardians, we are going to hit them with this very large and in-charge Blaster Blade. Then Flogal is going to go ahead and use its skill, send itself back to deck, and we get to restand the Blaster Blade and swing one more time. Effectively going for game with only one counterblast. So the next combo I want to show you guys is probably my favorite version of the combo. It doesn't extend as far, but it doesn't use as much counterblast, and it still gets a good number of attacks, being 7. Most of the time, unless you're up against a control matchup or a matchup that can wipe your board, you're going to have a lot of your back row still remaining between your Replenish Mages and your Barkgull for your counter charge. So I want to kind of maximize the use out of my back row as much as I can before I'm forced to go for the game by calling over a bunch of Flogals. So to kind of show off what we can do with this is with only 3 counterblasts, and because of how many times we can proc Barkgull in a turn thanks to the Blaster Engine as well as the now Replenished Mage, we still get a good number of attacks. But we're always going to have one Flogal to also restand a Blaster Blade, and also for that Ryu as well. So let's go ahead and stride for turn. We're going to flip up our Crystal Luster and flip up our Gancelot. Let's say we also G-guarded, so we are also now a GB3. I'm going to develop our board like so. Replenish Mage is behind the Vanguard, and we're going to make 2 different Blaster Engine columns. The one with the Flogal not on the force markers, and the one with Barkgull on the force markers, because that is where Blaster Blade will be going. Our first attack will be sending this Liu and Flogal into the Vanguard and using its skill, Counterblast 1, pop it into Soul, and Superior Call a Blaster Dark, which gains 3k and gets to poke their Vanguard as well. Our next attack will be the Barkgull boosting the Ryu, using Ryu's skill, pop it into Soul, and we get a Blaster Blade, which gains 3k, also proccing the Barkgull to give us a counter charge. Here, we can swing with the Blaster Blade. And then we can swing with Crystal Luster Dragon. So, no open spots yet, so we know we have to use Crystal Luster first. This Bark Gull is kind of what I want to call expired. We've basically milked it for as much as we could this turn, and probably prior turns as well, so I kind of want to open it up so that way we have chances to play Replenish Mage there, maybe another Flogal there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Soul in the Blaster Blade and the Bark Gull column, making sure to leave a grade 2, just so that we are able to maintain the GB3. Then we can use Replenish Mage after getting our force markers onto the circle here. Counterblast 1, and we do get Blaster Blade back out onto that circle. We'll do our drive checks here. Obviously, once again, a Yellowcard Vanguard does love getting yellow cards on the drive checks. We're going to give everything to do this Blaster Blade. Then we can swing with the Blaster Blade, use the Flogal skill, Counterblast 1, back to deck, shuffle, and swing one more time with the Blaster Blade. And that about wraps up the combo video. So, some key notes about the combos that I showcased to you guys today. You can assume that one Counterblast should get you one extra attack. Replenish Mage costs a Counterblast to get a Superior Call, and Flogal costs a Counterblast to restand Blaster Blade. And Liu also uses a Counterblast to Superior Call. Bark Gull can get a countercharge, but it takes up a slot on the board that Flogal or Replenish Mage would be using. So when you're looking to rinse your opponent, consider playing over the Bark Gull for a Flogal or another Replenish Mage. The second point to mention is that Replenish Mage needs to call into an empty circle, so skills that empty your circle combo well with it. Obviously this works really well with MLB, but Flogal and Amulet Pure Ego, the Soul Crit, also provides empty circle so that you can stack your skills that let you Replenish Mage and then feed it to MLB as cost. Finally, a lot of combos feature Liu, but Liu requires us to have a Blaster Blade still in deck for that extra attack. If we're out of Blasters and Blaster Blades in deck, consider just putting Liu behind the Vanguard circle just to keep Crystal Luster's GB3 alive. There's a lot of other small finicky movements that Replenish Mage can provide to the deck, but I hope that I've uncovered the majority of the extent that we can use Replenish Mage to improve the Blaster Premium and, I guess in a sense, V Premium decks as well. If you found this helpful and enjoyed the video, do subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up as well as a comment to some other combos that I may have missed, or ones that stood out to you. My favorite one is the grade 3 ride combo, as Blasters have a really strong grade 2 game, and riding up and going for the kill with the Blaster Engine combo is something Replenish Mage enables. In any case, this has been Toku from the Yellowcard Vanguard channel, and thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.